I've had, I think 4 fast foods in the last week, making up for this.
Hi guys, I'm Nick Bester. I'm a 219 marathoner, and just to give you a bit of context on this VO2 max video today, so this was pretty much 9 days after my full send at Berlin Marathon. And why I decided to do this, it was pretty much booked well in advance with Science and Sports, and I thought it's quite a good idea to get it in 9 days after Berlin because I want to see where the body is at. I've done a lot of these VO2 max tests in the past, and my numbers have been probably around, with a VO2 max indicator of around 70 to 77. This test was significantly different. The testing standards at Loughborough University are world class, and I think, you know what, it's a reminder to all of us that fatigue definitely stays in the legs 9 days post the full send marathon, and you also can't have a cheat week like I did, binging on absolutely everything post marathon and expect to hit the high numbers that you set for yourself sometimes. So anyways, here it is, me giving it a full send on a treadmill, harnessed in. Enjoy.
So what's the plan today?
So one question is, how much running have you got in you today? I think because we can either do an extended protocol or a slightly sort of shorter protocol. So we're trying to work out, depends how much training, where you're at, and everything like that.
Let's go extended, because this is my run for the day. So
okay,
normally I do a longer, not a longer, but like a 15 to 20k run in the day. So if we can fit in, I suppose we don't need to fit that much in today, but if extended is closer, then let's go with that.
No, so what we'll use then, we'll use our fuel utilization testing. So what that gives us is slightly more information than our standard testing, that we'll look at your fat oxidation, carb oxidation rates, alongside our lactate thresholds and our general normal metrics that we'll get out of it.
Okay, cool.
We get a bit of extra information around, or higher quality data on how much carb in particular that you're using in each intensity. So as you probably already know, when you're doing your longer endurance racing, how much fuel you can get in, how much you can use is really important to kind of make sure you can keep that performance running all the way to the bitter end of that race. So we'll use that. So the first test is probably going to be around about an hour long with this protocol, because we extend out the duration of the steps. We do 6-minute stages. So we'll start probably very easy, probably, you know, chatty conversational level, step it up by 1 kilometer an hour every 6 minutes, measuring your oxygen uptake, carbon dioxide being produced, lactate, heart rate, and we'll also look at your RPE, so how subjectively hard you're feeling at each one of those stages, and that builds out our idea of how physiologically hard each one of those stages are, be able to pick out your lactate thresholds and kind of set up your training zones off the back of that first test.
Amazing. Cool.
So that's number one.
Yep.
Bit of time off.
Quick one. On number one, this first test, how hard will I be working at the end of it?
So what we'll do is, because we're trying to, how much of a conception do you have of your lactate threshold 1 and lactate threshold 2? Are you comfortable with those?
A pretty good idea, but it's more according to feel, so it'll be good to see if the numbers sort of match up.
So the first threshold for general sort of 3 to 4 hour marathon runners will tend to sit around about that first threshold, will be about that marathon pace. As you kind of progress and you're getting, you know, sub 3, then you probably will race your marathon slightly above that, because the duration is shorter. You can hang on a little bit higher in intensity. So yourself, it might sit a little bit higher than that. Cool. The second threshold, so that's when we see the lactate almost go into an exponential part of the curve. That deflection point normally sits around about 10k-ish pace. So we'll probably have a stage beyond your 10k pace is roughly where I'd say we'd end that test.
That's
so
okay. So working hard, but not fully.
Oh yeah, no, we shouldn't be going. We call it the max test, submax test, because it should be a little bit, you know, not right at that top end.
Okay, cool, amazing.
And we'll save the max for the second test.
Okay, so we do VO2 max after that.
Yes, so we'll do a submax test, have a little bit of time off, recovery, get your legs back under you. Have a drink, have some fuel before we go into the max test. So that one, once you understand the thresholds and what we might be able to sustain for a 10k duration, a marathon duration, where your easy zones are, you know, once you've established that, we're now trying to find that ceiling of your aerobic physiology. So we're trying to find like the top end, and then you've got your thresholds that sit below that.
Let's go.
What are you up to on that last one? 18?
19.
Okay, good stuff. Well done. I reckon, looking at it, like I say, there's definitely some.
There's definitely more.
There's
more, but there's fatigue in the legs for sure.
It's
First speed session, McDonald's, KFC. you got to find the balance. About 15 pints between then and now. We should have done this test like 2 weeks before, man. We would have kept on going.
Yeah. So into like that last lactate was for a marathon runner. That was high. So there's definitely.
We were pushing. I won't lie, when you said like 90, 60, 30, good to go.
And then for the VO2 max test, am I completely going to try and max out? The reason why I'm asking, so I've done a few in the past where we've got to a level where it gives you extrapolated VO2 max, but today we're going to try and tap into that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're a bit more nasty than maybe.
No, that's cool. That's cool because I want to try and get there.
So we've got 2 different protocols that we can talk and use. There's either we use a gradient-based one. So to push you to max, we add a 1% gradient each time. I would say for you, we might use the velocity-based profile, which is that we're progressing the pace you're running at.
Yes.
Just because, say if I'm working with trail ultra runners, that gradient protocol probably works super well because they're really adapted to pushing to max on incline.
No heels.
Yeah.
I've been training flatter races. Cool.
So whereas any road track based runners, obviously that velocity profile is probably easier to get you to max, and equally gives us another point, sort of how far can you run past your VO2 max.
Perfect.
So your VO2 max is the first point first pace where we think your VO2 max will be established. We'll get an MAV number as we call it. It's basically the highest pace that you sustain for a minute. So the gap between those two can also tell us a little bit about your anaerobic capacity. So we use that particularly with our middle distance runners because they'll have to be running at points beyond that VO2 max. And like how good are they at basically running beyond that?
Cool. Okay, great. I think, from my side, it's been 9 days since Berlin Marathon, so probably do not try this at home. But at the same time, I think, the body's feeling really good. Let's see if we can hit those max levels today. And I think the biggest takeaway for me today is to try and make sure I'm training within the right zones. I'm at that stage where it's all about marginal gains. So we need to keep training as productive as possible. And I think these numbers will reflect, what sort of zones I should be training in.
Time to see what the results say. So looking at the 2 things for that first test, we're looking at your 2 thresholds. First threshold occurred at around about 330 minutes per K. So that's roughly where I'd expect for your recent marathon for that first threshold to sit. So strong result on that. Your second threshold came in around about 18.5 kilometers an hour. So I think sort of to move that marathon time forward, you might have to extend out that top threshold a little bit. Give yourself a little bit more space so when you are running around about that, trying to get towards that 270 marathon, you're not running right up on that second threshold almost.
Okay. So basically for it to become a reality, my LT2 has to shift upwards a little bit.
A little bit. There might be a bit of fatigue in your legs from that recent marathon because it did look, as soon as you were through that threshold, everything spiked really quickly. So there might be extra fatigue. There was a few things that across both profiles that looked like there is fatigue in there. So
yes.
I think if we get a true fresh protocol, again, possibly after your next race.
I could definitely feel a bit of a fatigue. 9 days after a full send marathon, but at the same time, it's just really nice to know that it's there. I just need to sort of work on it.
No, it's and those 2 thresholds are sitting quite high and close to your VO2 max. So we normally say that they sit at around 80 and 90% of VO2 max. You're getting up towards 85, 95 with those. So it might be pushing that max capacity up a little bit more as well and putting some specific blocks to move your max capacity up. Give yourself more maneuverability of those thresholds to move them forwards.
Okay. So pretty much work on the VO2 max work is crucial. That's what I'll do before I embrace my next marathon block. Is operation speed once again, shift that 5k pace, 10k pace, and then sort of use that all the way through to the marathon block.
Yeah, for sure.